get to my list, I was looking at your Lakewood future land use map. What do you mean by NA 78?
So the numbers were, I believe, was out of Lakewood's comp plan, was the land areas, and the other nomenclature is out of St. Louis County comp plan. So NA would be natural area.
Okay, so natural areas, and does the 7/8 refer to the district number?
I believe in the future, the Lakewood comp plan has land use areas designated in it, and that's what those numbers are from. I'm sorry, I don't have the comp
Okay,
plan in front
so
of me.
when you say future land use, is this from the Lakewood comp plan? Or what you think they'd be moved to under St. Louis County zoning?
Each number was from the Lakewood comp plan, and so these areas haven't changed in dimensions or where they're located.
Okay.
They're just transferred over as what we thought would best fit the same intent of that future land use based on Lakewood's comp plan, and then what St. Louis County's comp plan categories are. So
Okay. So these, the ones in the future land use are from St. Louis County's comp plan? Am I
I can
missing
try
something?
explaining. So, we took a look at Lakewood Township's comp plan, and that's where the numbers came from. And we tried to compare it to how can we fit Lakewood's comp plan if you were to relinquish the zoning, how would we compare that to best fit it into our comp plan and our land use map on how we describe
Okay.
future land use areas.
So the purple and green one is what you would be fitting into the St. Louis County land plan?
That's
Comp plan?
how we would compare it, and we would certainly be open to working with the township on finalizing any
Okay.
kind of
So
zoning map or land use map.
my question is, what is, so NA means natural areas?
And that is coming from our
Right.
comp plan.
What
correct.
does the number 7/8 mean?
I would refer to the town board on answering what the 7/8 comes from, because that's what we took from the
Okay.
Lakewood Township
All right.
comp plan.
Okay, so you've said that if we have you administer our zoning, basically transitioning to St. Louis County zoning, that would be at no cost to us, right?
Correct.
Okay. I have read that it's possible to ask the county to administer the township zoning ordinance. If the county agrees to do it and for a fee, is that something that the county would do?
I'm not familiar with that path, but we could check with the attorneys to see if that's something that could be done.
That would be something, an interesting thing to find out. So in terms of the meetings for variances and conditional use permits, I'm assuming they would all happen in Virginia?
Correct.
Yes. So anyone who wanted to attend a meeting in person would need to go to Virginia.
Correct.
Can you participate online, WebEx?
Yep, every meeting is a hybrid option.
Okay, so Lakewood citizens could participate in the meeting by WebEx
Correct.
and be heard?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely, that is correct. There's a lot of seasonal recreation development in St. Louis County. So oftentimes, folks that are applying for variances or conditional use permits don't reside in St. Louis County. So they have that option as well to attend virtually, provide comments virtually. So yes, that is an option.
So I also read that members of the St. Louis County Planning Commission and the Board of Adjustment, I'm not sure how they're chosen, but it says the majority are required to be from unincorporated areas of the county, which I assume would exclude us since we're incorporated.
It's referring to cities in this case, rather than organized townships.
So when it says unincorporated areas of the county, that includes us, that includes townships?
In this case, yes, because it's within our zoning district. Where the
Okay.
municipalities, the cities would be outside of our zoning jurisdiction.
And is a representative from the county attorney's office generally present at BOA hearings?
Yeah, so so we used to be combined department with community development, or economic development, is the reference now. And once we were separated from them, our assigned attorney has been present at every meeting.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify a little bit, and you've touched on this, about how the current, our current zoning map would be affected by moving to St. Louis County zoning. So you've said that you would move the current Lakewood zones into like the closest applicable zone? And would you look to retain the lot size when you are doing that?
What we've done with the other townships is, so for Lakewood, FAM, multiple use, MU, res, those are all existing zone,
Right.
all the zone districts
Yeah.
are existing in St. Louis County, so that would just basically be a one-to-one match, so those zoning requirements.
Except, I see St. Louis County has like 3 different levels of FAM zones. There's a 35 acre, there's a 17 acre, and then there's a 9 acre.
Yeah,
FAM
so-
1, 2, and 3?
Yeah, so on the dimension table for St. Louis County,
Yeah,
we've got all these zone districts, and that is your allowed use. But then you've got the district table, which sets lot requirements. So,
right.
In the Lakewood zoning, you just have a set, say FAM 3, and
Right.
that's just it. With ours, you've got the district table and the zoning, they're separate,
Uh-huh.
but then it could be mixed match, so it could be FAM 1, could be FAM 2, could be FAM 3.
Right.
In this case, what we try to do in this example is draft, if it was FAM 3, we'd change it to FAM 3. If it
Mhm.
was Res 7, we'd change it to Res 7.
Mhm.
But what I alluded to earlier is there's a difference in several of those district numbers in Lakewood
Mhm.
that don't completely match up
Right.
with St. Louis County.
But
And
you
that
would,
would be the opportunity, so maybe Res 7 with the 1.8 acre requirement may be closer to, I don't have it in front of me, but maybe it's closer to let's see.
1.8, there's a 2 acre requirement in district number 10.
Possibly maybe a Res 6, which would be 2 acre, 200. So we'd have an opportunity there to work with you and see what you prefer.
Mhm.
The problem with that scenario is if your requirements were a 1.8 and we moved it to a 2, then it would make any of those that were previously approved for 1.8 a non-conforming lot. Whereas the other direction, or if it goes down to a 1 acre, some of those lots that may have been previously non-conforming may be conforming.
But anything that became non-conforming under the new ordinance would be grandfathered in.
Correct.
So in looking through the St. Louis County ordinance and the Lakewood Township ordinance, we have pretty detailed procedure for building on non-conforming lots. And when a non-conforming lot basically gets grandfathered in and, you know, when it doesn't. I didn't find anything like that in St. Louis County ordinance. The only discussion of non-conforming lots I found was for riparian shoreline. And other than that, there was no discussion of how you deal with non-conforming lots. If someone applies for a building permit on a non-conforming lot, I mean, are you familiar with that?
Part of the permit review would be to determine if it was a lot of record, if it doesn't conform, and that would be the definition of was it legally created at that time. So we would either do our own research on the planner level, or we would contact the recorders to see when it was created, and if it, in our zoning, sometimes the zoning changed, so it might have been, we, you know, met that, at that time it was recorded, but then it got more restrictive, so we would do that research.
I didn't find anything in the St. Louis County ordinance about any exceptions for lots of record, so, I don't know, maybe I was looking in the wrong place. But you think that there is, so a non-conforming lot would still be grandfathered in?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, if it was legally created.
And if I may add, if it was a lot that wasn't created lawfully or legally, there wouldn't be any development allowed. However, in those times, that property owner would have a right to apply for a variance to develop that lot. So that we've ran into that scenario in the past.
How does the county treat a parcel that falls into more than one zone? Like parcel is split between a 10-acre zone and a 5-acre zone. How do you treat it?
Typically what we do, so let's say someone was applying for a dwelling and there's two different zone districts, we would look at where that use falls. So if it was in a FAM and a res, it was split, but based on setbacks, it fell in the FAM 3, then we'd look at the setback requirements and uses allowed in that FAM 3 area.
Okay, but in terms of lot size,
I mean, that would go back to kind of lot of record status to see if it was lawfully created. I mean, I think this was in one of the questions from the emails.
it was, yeah.
And part of it could be for some of this zoning. If we go through it here, when we examine that zoning map, we can take a closer look. Because the zoning should be snapped to parcel lines, quarter quarters, road center lines, or right-of-ways in most cases. And if it's not, the ordinance allows the director to make that determination of where it should fall.
The zoning director.
So it doesn't happen frequently, but where you see it is sometimes what we refer to as the bubble zoning around rivers. You'll see kind of multiple zonings on parcels around that area. But in most cases, you don't find it too frequently.
And enforcement, I guess one concern that's been raised is that, we don't have a local person who's kind of around and seeing what's going on, and how do you deal with enforcement in townships where you don't have staff?
You want to take a stab at this? Sure. You want
We recognize St. Louis County is a very large county.
Yes, it is.
We do have 2 office locations, one in Virginia and one in Duluth. But we do have a dedicated compliance and enforcement planner that takes in all complaints. We investigate all those complaints to determine their validity. If a violation is determined, we move through our enforcement procedures. Though our county is very large, and having that staff person dedicated, that staff person can be in Ely, within 2 hours to do a site visit. Certainly can be here within 20 minutes from downtown Duluth to conduct site visits. So though we are a large county, we do get out in the field and we do invest on-site investigations.
So how is the administration, how's the, I don't know, are you zoning, planning and zoning? How's it split up between your Virginia office and your Duluth office? Is most of your staff in one place or the other?
It's, over the years, it's shifted. Prior to online permitting and being able to do it electronically, most of our staff was in Virginia, because quite frankly, that's where a majority of permits came from with Lake Vermillion. And right now, it's shifted to most of the staff is out of Duluth. So it's 5 out of Duluth, 2 out of Virginia. But any planner can take any permit. It's really a first in, first out, because everything, whether it came in paper or not, goes into our electronic system, and it's just picked up as it's going to. And if I can piggyback off the last question too with Brian, we also have an assigned deputy that works with our department that can assist in the enforcement process as well.
So basically, you respond to complaints. You'd respond if someone called it in.
Correct.
Is that it, Glenn?
Yep, it is.
Mr. Chair, could I piggyback up on one of Glenn's
Sure.
questions? I just wanted to get a little bit of clarification. So if there's parcel that falls into 2 different zones, you said that if they were gonna do a dwelling, or whatever the use is gonna be, it would follow the requirements for the zone that it was in.
Correct.
Okay. Alright, thanks. That's it, Mr. Chair.
Question?
I don't have too many questions for you. I just, again, Gwen covered a lot of the questions and information I was looking to get as well. But when Gwen was talking about whether, if we could maintain our own zoning and have the county administer pieces or parts of it, I really do like that idea, enforcement being one of the primary ones that we would look for value on that. A secondary one would be the cannabis one. But we've also already gotten information from the county that because we have our own zoning, the St. Louis County will not touch our cannabis zoning function, and we're on our own with that. So that kind of makes me wonder if there's that there's probably not a way that we can maintain ourselves, but have the county do some of this stuff. So,
I think at this time, we can't answer that question with certainty, but I know the guidance and direction you've been given regarding the cannabis ordinance, that's absolutely correct. And I would expect it would be a similar answer to the situation or the proposal of keeping your own zoning but having St. Louis County administer it. It's probably something that wouldn't be supported by the county, by county administration or our attorneys. So.
that's what
But I can't say that with certainty, we'd have to ask.
But just
We'd
based
have
on
to get
one little
confirmation on that.
item that we had looked for support for last fall, and we're told we couldn't get it for one little item. Now we're looking at our own big ordinance. I'm pretty sure probably the county will not blend us and work together with us having the zoning and you guys being the hammer to enforce and or bear the cost. Thank you.
Kathy?
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you.
I just had some questions on the, like Lance and Glenn touched on, and how we were gonna, some of the bars are 1.8 to fit in there, but I think you answered that. So I'm good, appreciate you for coming.
I just have one follow-up on what Joe was asking about. Again, I read this stuff in my Minnesota Association of Townships book, and it tells me things like, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. St. Louis County sets the floor when it comes to land use controls, but the township can have more restrictive ones. So it made me think, okay, we could have more restrictive, we could leave like 90% of it alone and have a few more restrictive ordinances, just things that we felt were necessary for our particular township. So wouldn't St. Louis County enforce the others? I mean, would you just like, even if we have our zoning too, if we just choose to like not enforce anything, the county still has an obligation to enforce its own zoning, right? If the township isn't maintaining minimum enforcement levels?
The way I guess I'm understanding your question would be, let's say, I'm just gonna throw in an example, a scenario. I think it would have to be the township relinquishing their zoning. However, the township would have the ability to adopt special ordinances to address maybe those specific issues that you still want to
Yeah.
have authority over. But it would still include the process of relinquishing the zoning, but then the additional process of the township adopting a new ordinance.
And then, say, just like one example of where there's a big difference between the county and St. Louis County, which is interior parcels. Private roads, we currently have a very restrictive ordinance about how many homes can be on a private road without, where the homes don't have frontage on a public road. And from what I could see, St. Louis County doesn't have anything like that. It's got, so long as you've got legal access, doesn't matter. So if the township felt like we want to keep that restriction because, we want to restrict development of interior parcels or something like that, could we, after turning the other enforcement over to you and relinquishing our ordinance, could we pass that ordinance, just say on development on interior parcels? And then if we did do that, who would enforce it?
I'm gonna look to Donna a little bit, but I'm gonna try to answer it first, would be, I think, yes, you could do that. But if you wanted to maintain that authority, the township would have to enforce that piece. There might be potential, I think we'd have to go back to our attorneys to confirm this, there might be potential if the township were to relinquish their zoning and wanted to work with the county on keeping some of those more restrictive standards and requirements specific to their township, we could call that out specifically in the ordinance. I think we do similar things with Writing Township, is that correct?
Yes.
In Sudan?
Sudan has special regulations. We haven't done it yet, but there's been in the past brought up the possibility of an overlay, which would be, you've got the underlying zoning, but there may be additional restrictions if it falls into an overlay district as well. So we could look into the possibility of that too.
And is there any way you could consult with your attorney and get back to us on
Yep,
that?
absolutely.
That'd be great, thank you.
Question. You said that the process now, if we were to choose to go, if the township were to choose to go with turning over our ordinance to the county and all the management, you said there was a bit of a process to go through. Could you run through that again real briefly?
Yeah, the key points is there'll be several public hearings. So there'll need to be one at the township level that makes the decision, that they're gonna rescind the zoning. And that's gonna trigger us to start working with you, working out the details, and then bring that to the St. Louis County Planning Commission to consider adopting the zoning map for the township, as well as the future land use map into the county's comp plan. And then the planning commission would then recommend moving that on to county board. So then a public meeting, public hearing at the county board level would have to be established. And then once that's accomplished, county board would vote on it, and then if they pass it, then they would set an effectuation date. And then, somewhere in there, like, it would have to be before county board, you'd also have a final resolution from the township, relinquishing the zoning. And then we'd work out the details with, passing on past permits, and so we can get those into our system for records.
Okay, so we're looking at a 3 to 4 step process.
Yeah, of major
Easily,
steps with
easily.
some smaller details and working between the township and the county in between. And let's say if you were to start this process now, and hold a meeting, say next month in October, and make it official that you wanna give the zoning back, it might not be till March or April that it could be effective with all requirements and county board schedules.
Is, in the past, when townships have relinquished their ordinance, do they usually go through a vote process with the township members? Or is it just whoever shows up to the meeting, gives a yea or nay and it moves through?
Yeah, as far as I can tell, at least from looking at Kenosha's, I wasn't as familiar with Greenwood back in 2016. But they held a public meeting and took in comments from whoever wanted to come or submit it. And then the board of supervisors made the vote. I don't know if they put it on, I don't think anyone did a ballot vote and took a vote as far as whoever, on a township level. I believe it was just all handled by the board of supervisors.
That's what we were told when we were at that meeting with the Kenosha folks.
And if I could, that would be something that the township may want to consult with your attorney on.
Okay. Definitely would.
Or the bad attorney.
Or our MAT attorneys, Minnesota Association of Township, as to what the best route is, rather than 5 people making a decision for 2,000 people.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
One more.
Mention that, Glenn had mentioned about, specific things that we may want to keep the way it's been going. You're gonna get back to us from your attorney. Likelihood of the St. Louis County Planning and Zoning or the commission approving that type of thing. I mean, does that happen, or is it generally an all or nothing?
I guess I don't have any experience in the background with that. You can give an inkling in one direction or another.
Yeah.
In the past couple, once they chose to give the zoning back, the staff worked with the township to finalize the map and brought it to the planning commission, and they just moved it forward as it was. But as far as any overlays or any extra restrictions, I don't have a good answer for that.
Okay.
I just haven't seen it.
Right, it doesn't happen very often. All right, thanks.
Any further questions? One of my biggest concerns with Lakewood is what we've seen in the last year even was, cartways, and how the township is gonna start paying for lawyer fees, and who is Lakewood gonna use to enforce our law. I've brought it up for many years that our planning and zoning doesn't really have a whole lot of backbone. Yeah, it says you can't do this, but there's not a fine, there's not, you know, if you do this, X, Y, Z is gonna happen. And Jim has brought it up too, that we really need to go through our planning and zoning, page by page, and look at everything and then decide how it's gonna be enforced. St. Louis County has already come out and said, they are not gonna enforce township planning and zoning unless we go to them, we give them the you know, turn the planning and zoning over to St. Louis County. But then we can, you know, cause everything's gonna come through the township also, so then we will still have a say on it. But my biggest fear is what it's gonna cost the township in the future to have our own planning and zoning, because we can't enforce things like the county can. They have the judges, they have the sheriffs, you know, we don't have, most of this was, you know, our planning and zoning was made when we had constables. And, you know, our constables could go out and enforce some of this stuff. I'm not gonna go enforce it. I wouldn't guess any one of us would wanna go to somebody's house and enforce something, you know, without a sheriff. So then we're gonna have to pay a sheriff to go with us. But I'm just saying, my point of view is I really wanna go to St. Louis County. And so, that's just my point of view because of what we already pay St. Louis County. Have a lot of redundancy, and it costs our taxpayers a lot more money. And if we keep having to go to court and fight for things, it's gonna cost us more and more and more. Where St. Louis County has all the functions and the fines and everything in their book. That's my opinion. I don't know if anybody wants to add or ask any questions.
Just, as far as my understanding is cartways are not included in this planning and zoning, no.
No,
So we would still be dealing with cartways on our own.
That's where your question with the landlocked land. And we're finding out we have to give them a cartway because you cannot restrict people access to their land. So that's gonna keep coming down the road. And how are we gonna pay for it? I think we should have a public hearing, as soon as possible, within reason. I know Lance, you're gonna be gone. If there's no further discussion for the guys from St. Louis County, could we set up a special meeting time tonight? What's our minimum or maximum or
I
how
need
long?
an absolute minimum of 14 days to get it published and posted.
Okay,
So here's a calendar for you. Oh, this will be done in October, but. So if you're gonna, that would bring us right towards the end. So you'd be better off in
in
October.
October, like the first week of October,
First Wednesday.
so 14 days,
Past 14 days.
there you go.
First
Are
Wednesday.
you're not gonna be here? When will you be back?
22nd of October, I'll be back.
Not
22nd?
wait for you.
You don't have to wait for me.
What's the special meeting for?
Our hearing for
It
public.
would be a special meeting for a hearing,
Oh, okay.
so
But
we
that
can,
would be with P and Z though.
what's that?
It would be with P and Z.
The supervisors can have the special meeting and have public comment. That's the first step into doing this. Am I correct?
I thought it was the P and Z committee would need to have a public meeting, public hearing.
No.
I mean, you may wanna consult your attorney on
Yeah.
probably your best route. But ultimately, yes, it'll have to be decided at a public hearing and have the board of supervisors vote on it. But how you wanna, provide that information to the township residents and gain their comments will be up to you and maybe your attorneys for your best route.
Yeah.
If I may, if we could push it back a little bit so that we can contact the attorneys, then make a decision who's having the public hearing, you guys figure that out, whatever. But then, not only publish and post, but that gives me time to call and have the postcards printed up and mailed to all of our residents, because it's such an important, it would be such an important public hearing. So if we can kind of make it a little bit, and I know you want it as soon as possible, but as soon as you guys tell me when, after you talk to the attorney, and we can get the postcards written up, they can have it done in a couple of days, and we could be fine. I just wanna make sure that we get everything out.
Well, our next meeting's the 8th,
Yes.
so then we would still have 14 days to have it later in October. Gotcha. Who was speaking?
Somebody.
I got a comment, but, so I do think we should go ahead and do a public comment period and have a meeting, so I think we should have one, whether we can have discussion if that's something we're gonna vote on at that time, or what your thoughts on that, I guess I'm fine with that too. But
I think we get a hold of the lawyer and then we'll set up a meeting at our next board meeting, a special meeting.
Yep, I think that's fine. I mean, this whole process of what we're looking into is not a time critical thing. It's
No.
not something we have to have done by the end of October or end of November. I mean, if it needs to, it can take 6 months to 9 months. Whatever time frame we need to make this the most appropriate decision involving the township people and the board and the legalities and the whole process and stuff, so we can take our time. It's not something we have to have in 3 weeks' time or whatever, so. I think you're right, Gary, contact the attorney, see what we need, contact our map people, see what they would recommend, and then go from there and set a date next month. By that time, we can gather a lot more statistics from the township level as to what the planning and zoning has been costing us, kind of on an average for, I don't know, the last 5-6 years, something in that order. And versus those costs, now we will not have to incur in the future. So I think that's definitely something that we need to take some time and get that together.
I think it, and I can do this, do basically a side-by-side comparison of the two ordinances, and, you know, I'm not going to be able to identify, oh, well, this one uses this word and this one uses this word, but at least focus in on the areas that have been areas that have come up a lot, and what the differences are there. And I had another question, I just forgot.
So we're under the understanding that we're gonna look into everything that was mentioned, contact Matt, contact our attorney. We'll talk further with planning and zoning and the zoning administrator, see what the differences are. We'll regroup next month at the Board of Supervisor meeting. We'll determine when we're gonna have a special meeting for public comment. And then possibly vote on that if applicable. Correct?
Oh, I remember the question I had. So it has to do with comprehensive land use plans. St. Louis County, I assume, periodically has comprehensive land use planning. About how often?
The most recent, well, our comp plan was just done in 2019, so it's up for review. We're in the process of reviewing it.
And when would, is it like every 10 years? Sorry.
It's every 5 years.
Every 5 years, okay. So there's gonna be a new comp plan coming out.
No, not necessarily, it's just revisions to
I see.
whatever may be outdated or needs to be changed.
So, if, when the comp plan gets revised, it could change the zoning districts and all kinds of different things, right?
It wouldn't change the zoning districts, no. The comp plan kind of guides zoning but it's not necessarily gonna then trigger a complete overhaul
But it
of
could.
St. Louis County.
I mean, a comp plan, I mean, that's the reason you do a comp plan. You can change the zoning districts.
Yes, potentially you
Yeah.
could, based on land
And
use.
what kind of input would we have into that comp plan?
With any ordinance revision or official control, every township and municipality in the county gets notified and given the opportunity to comment.
Would there be like a public hearing where people could show up and
Yep.
express concerns,
Yeah,
make comment?
just like this one, there'd be multiple public hearings, so it would have to go through planning commission and then ultimately, the county board.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair. So I got a, regarding the timeframe, I think we need to move as quick as possible for our zoning department, for their sake, because if we're not gonna move to St. Louis County, then we need to revamp, we need to go down there, we just need to put a budget together, figure out what the comp plan's gonna cost, and that has to be ready to be presented to our next annual meeting for our budget.
Well,
And so that's why, as Gary he wants to get going right here within a couple of weeks, that there is some time if we're gonna do it, or else I see this whole train just making a swirling effect, and the financial responsibility is increasing with the way things are going. It's not, even if we go back in 5 years, it's not gonna give us a real look of the financial burden that we're looking at for the next 5 years if we keep it. Because we do have to redo the comp plan. So we gotta be real with the financial situation of the township, and I think the residents need to let us know what their thought is on it. But I do think we wanna try to move as quick as possible, so we have guidance for the annual meeting. If we're gonna keep it, or whatever.
any further discussion?
Just that I would think that if this is in process, and I agree with Joe, that we need to do it right. And if we do it, rather than say, oh, we have to imposing unrealistic deadlines and maybe making mistakes, that, it could take half a year. And if we have to budget for P and Z for one more year, then we have to budget for P and Z for one more year. And get it done when we can get it done. Just, I think we need to do it right, make sure we get the right input, and make sure that we do it right.
I don't wanna be a little bit blunt, but we've had a lot of time to already be researching this. The last 6 months we've been talking about this, so to say we have another year, all we're doing is kicking the can down the road. We need to find out what the residents want in Lakewood, and we need to take care of them and move forward, because this has already come up a year ago, a year before that. And if we say, oh, we're gonna get another year, I guess I'm not on board. I think we've had a lot of time to research it, and all the information is there. You can take each ordinance, or each county and ours, and you can review them. You just have to do it. We can't just keep saying we're gonna look at it. So if it's a concern for each one of us, we gotta review it, and we gotta do our part. If we wanna do it, but that's our responsibility as a supervisor. And if it makes sense not to do it, I mean, one of the issues is in here is the gravel pits. I own gravel pits. Do I want a gravel pit everywhere? No. But there's not much gravel resource in Lakewood that I feel like it would even be a risk. But I think even there, maybe that's the overlay part of it that we can look at and say, you know what? Is there something we can have a say in that? So I think we have to, the township's waiting for us, for them to give their input. We need to do our part.
Any further discussion? Then I would like us to get our questions answered, or send them to the appropriate people. And we'll get feedback for the next Board of Supervisor meeting. And then at that, we can determine when we're gonna have a special meeting for public input. And, when we're talking to the lawyers and stuff, we'll see how the vote should be made. If it's the supervisors that can vote on it, or if it has to come to a public vote. There's, still a lot of unknowns that we need to find out this month. So I was hoping that we could get these unknowns figured out by next Board of Supervisor meeting. We have a little more background of the unknowns, and then we can make a meeting for public comment and see where to go from there. Sound good?
Good.
Excellent. Thank you for your time, guys.
Thank you.
I appreciate you sticking around and answering questions and giving us your input.
Thank you.
Do you have contact for, getting back to us with the questions?
Yeah, so if I may, Board Chair, we will find out, some of the questions regarding if the township does relinquish the zoning, what special, zoning or regulation standards, the township may want to have St. Louis County adopt. So we'll reach out to our attorney and get back to you likely by the end of this week with those answers.
Okay.
And would you prefer that it goes to the clerk?
Yes.
Or?
Yes,
Everything has to go through the clerk.
Gotcha.
So you send it to her, she'll send it out to each one of us, and then we can, if we have more than 2 people, it's a meeting, so then, that's why everything gotta go through the clerk, so. If we can do that, it'd be great.
perfect, thank you so much.
If we have any questions, we'll email you or have the clerk email our questions. We'll communicate back and forth that way.
Very good.
Excellent.
Thanks for your time.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Or 5-minute recess.
A 5-minute recess? Yeah. Everybody, 5-minute recess?
Sure.
Second.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, you did a good job. Oh, thank you. I'm not, I don't know which